All right, we're still working on factoring, and now it's fixing to get fun. We're fixing to look at your rules for factoring trinomials. Now, there's two different versions, so I'm probably going to split this up into two videos. So this is the one where we're going to look at factoring trinomials, but specifically where you have a 1 here for a. So it's like x squared plus bx plus c. Basically, your a is 1. Those are a little bit easier. So sometimes I end up calling these the easy trinomials because there's a 1 in front of x squared. So I normally don't use any fancy rules. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. I've heard of bottoms up. Some people use little tables to do it. I kind of like to just use the basics. Where does it come from? So first thing I want to do is show you kind of how it works. There's like 4 scenarios we need to look at. Here's the first one. Okay, if we have x squared plus 7x plus 12, you cannot take out anything common because the 12 does not have an x. You cannot take out anything common number-wise because the x squared has a coefficient of 1. So the common stuff is out the window. Obviously doesn't fit the difference of 2 squares because it's a trinomial. It's not a binomial. So our next course of action is to let's see if it can factor into 2 binomials. So here we go. What 2 things do you know of that multiply to give you x squared? Well, that would be x and x. So that's not too bad. Every time you see one of these trinomials, that's going to be the front. Whatever your letter is, they're going to swap the letter out on you. Don't let that bother you. Just repeat your variable in the front of your binomials. Now, here's the biggie. You can read these from the back. Start from right to left. Okay, gotta go backwards. We want 2 numbers that multiply to this last number. So we're specifically looking to multiply to 12 here. And that, you've got options there, 1 and 12, and you've got 2 and 6, and you've got 3 and 4. So which one is it? It's the one that adds to 7. So you need this sign, and then you need this number. So multiply to 12, add to 7. Well, the only pair that does that is 3 and 4. It doesn't matter where you place them, just put 3 in the back of one of them and 4 in the back of the other one. So we got that part done. Now it's time to do the signs. When you do the signs, start at the back end again. Look at this sign. If it's a plus, that means your answer signs, the ones down here, they will be the same. So they're either plus plus or they're minus minus. If you look up front, that tells you what they both are. So we have 2 pluses. We're done. You can check it if you would like. You can FOIL it out just to double check. X times x is x squared. And then this right here gives me positive 4x. This right here gives me positive 3x. Works terrific. We do have a 7x, and 3 times 4 is 12. So everything's great. Now, we're not going to make quite so many notes on the next one, but I want you to see how the signs work here. So, same basic setup. You've got x and x. Same procedure. Multiply to 12, add to 7. Well, it's still 3 and 4. The only difference is your signs. There's a plus in the back, which means these in the answers will be the same, but look up front. We have a minus sign. They're both minus, okay? Okay, so that's both scenarios if you have a positive at the back end. What if you have negatives? So let's try this. Let's swap it up just a little bit. All right, what 2 things multiply to x squared? Well, that's going to be x and x. And we're going to read it the same way from the back, but it did change a little. We've got to multiply to 15, and this says they have to subtract to 2. Well, the 2 numbers that do that are 3 and 5. So put them down. It doesn't matter where, just put them down. Now go back and look at your signs. Now we have a minus in the back. Well, just use a little logic here. If a plus sign in the back means that your answer signs are the same, a minus in the back means that your answer signs down in here are going to be different. One will be positive, one will be negative. But you got to know which one's which. It does make a difference. So look up front. This is the sign that the big number gets. So you've got a 3, you've got a 5. 5 is bigger. So 5 gets the negative, 3 gets the opposite. If you want to check it, by all means, work it out. X times x is x squared. Now look at this. Positive 3x, and that's going to be negative 5x. So when you put them together, you do have a negative 2x. That works great. And then positive 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. So it works. Let's try one last scenario. It's the same basic thing, but I want you to see that there is a slight variation here. You do have x times x gives you x squared. Two numbers that multiply to 15 and subtract to 5, we're still talking about 3 and 5. The signs are still different, but look up here. The big one gets the plus sign. Well, 5 wins the plus, 3 gets the minus. So if you'll look at this answer and this answer, there's some distinct similarities, but the signs make all the difference, and signs are tremendously important when you factor. So if you can remember, if there's a plus sign in the back, means your answer signs are the same. A minus sign in the back means that your answer signs are different. So let's just do a couple just to make sure that we're good. We might do 4. Let's just see. Oh, that's not going to work. I can't talk and write at the same time. Here we go. So x squared minus x minus 12. Well, we know it's going to be x and x. Multiply to 12, subtract to 1. So if it makes you feel better to put the 1, put the 1. They got to be really close to subtract to 1. So that's going to be 3 and 4. The signs are different. The big one gets the minus. 4 is bigger. 3 has to get the opposite sign. And so you're done. If you've got x squared plus 9x plus 20, you do have your x's. Multiply to 20, add to 9. That would be 4 and 5. Signs are the same. Both of them are plus. If you have x squared plus 3x minus 18, what two numbers multiply to 18 and subtract to 3? Well, 3 and 6. The signs are different. The big one gets the plus. So 3 gets the negative there. Just whatever the opposite one means. And if you got x squared minus 10x, and let's see here what we want to do. Let's do a 16. How about that? If you do x and x, what two numbers multiply to 16 and add to 10? That would be 2 and 8. Signs are the same, both negative. Hopefully that gave you a little validity. I don't want you to think that every trinomial that is in this form actually factors. Factoring is one of these things that is lovely when it happens, but when it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So if you try one, be careful when you're going through it. You got to think all the way. You can't necessarily be watching TV or texting while you do this. You've got x and x. What two numbers multiply to 4 and add to 3? Nothing. Because if you multiply to 4, you've got these two. None of them add to 3. If that sign had been subtraction, we could have worked it. But this thing says add. So it does not factor. You would need to put prime. There's things that we can do to solve these later when we get into quadratic equations, but as for factoring, no, it's prime. So hopefully that gives you some tips and you can work some just to get a little bit extra practice.